So in today's workshop, we hope that you will gain a deeper understanding of environmental issues and the role of youth in advocacy, that you'll learn how entrepreneurial skills can be applied to create impactful environmental solutions, and that you'll leave with actionable ideas and resources to pursue your interests in environmental advocacy and entrepreneurship. So the theme deeply resonates with me, which is pretty cool, and I'm confident that we're gonna learn and be inspired by the stuff that comes from both of our facilitators. So I will introduce them. Sylvie Stojanovski is the co-executive director of operations and administration at the Starfish Canada, where she works to support youth involved in climate action, focusing on equity and justice. With a background in art and environmentalism, Sylvie uses creative methods and storytelling to promote sustainable futures. Prior to joining the Starfish, she worked with multiple local community organizations, and in 2023, she was recognized as a young sustainability changemaker for her work in designing art-based capacity building programs to enhance climate action and social impact. Sylvie earned a bachelor's degree in arts management, and she has a master's in art education, where her research centered on sustainable practices in response to global climate crisis. Musab Abdel, also known as Moose, is an innovative entrepreneur, community leader, and catalyst for change. He leads Struggle is Your Success, a nonprofit organization that transforms marginalized youth through entrepreneurial education. Struggle is Your Success has impacted over 300 BIPOC youth, instilling entrepreneurial mindsets and fostering career development. Moose also leads QA Enterprises, which is an AI-driven tech startup that is pioneering innovation. He's developing an AI-powered platform called Tech Titans, which teaches science, technology, engineering, and math through gamified learning. Moose is a key figure in various nonprofits, serving on the Calgary Police Board for the African Community as vice chair of the Calgary Single Mothers Society, and is leading the Justice Black Blueprint initiative to empower at-risk youth. Moose studied innovation and design thinking at Harvard Business School. So with that, please welcome Sylvie.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm just testing my lapel mic. Okay, lapel mic works, great. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Engaging Youth at Work for a Sustainable Future. I'm going to be one of your facilitators today, and as Tanya mentioned, Moose is going to take the latter half of this session. This first part is going to be really focused on youth and environmentalism, and then we have Moose, who's going to talk about entrepreneurship. Before we get into it, I'd like to provide a little bit more context as to what brings me to the Eco Summit today. As Tanya mentioned, I'm currently the co-executive director of the Starfish Canada, which is a national charitable organization that's dedicated to uplifting the work of young changemakers across the country who are working in climate action. And we provide them with essential education, tools, resources, and recognition for them to thrive as leaders in shaping a climate resilient future. We do this particularly through a lens of equity and justice, centering care, community, and reciprocity above all in the work that we do. And our vision is a just and climate resilient future shaped by all youth. This is the Starfish team here. We are one of Canada's longest standing youth charities in the environmental movement. And as I mentioned, our focus is really to support and uplift change makers on the ground and doing the work that they're doing. So throughout this presentation, I'll talk about some of the programs that we do, but also what you folks can be doing in your various organizations to support youth leadership on the ground. Prior to joining the Starfish, I worked for a number of years in education, sustainability, and community organizing, supporting youth in developing initiatives of their own through an arts-based, trauma-informed holistic lens. So I have a photo that should hopefully come up momentarily. There we go. Of a youth program that I led, which was focused on public art making and bringing attention to local plants and pollinators. I know there's some smiles in the audience, which is awesome. So a lot of the time and throughout this conference, we've been hearing about tech, which is awesome. And something that I'm going to be offering this space is some of the more human side of the work that we're doing, engaging people in community in relation with one another. This is another project that I led in the past. This is actually an art cart that I ride through various communities using cycling infrastructure, and it's to raise awareness of the different infrastructure that we have in our communities in a very accessible way. It's very cool projects. Some of these projects actually led me to being recognized as one of the top 25 under 25 environmentalists back in 2021. So this is the angle of which I approach sustainability work. In choosing to be in this room today, I'm making some assumptions about you folks. The first one is that hopefully everybody in this room, given the fact that this is a sustainability conference, cares about the environment. And second, you have a desire to engage youth in a meaningful way in your work. And that's the focus of today's workshop. Now, I've been talking a lot. I'd just like to get a sense of what folks we have in the room. We can do this popcorn style. What sort of disciplinary backgrounds are folks coming from? Maybe we can just popcorn style yell it out and I'll repeat it back. Tech. Biology. Accounting. Education. Conservation. Pardon? Conservation. Yes. Any other ones that we're missing? Engineering. I love that this room is full of people from different disciplinary backgrounds because I think that's essential in the climate movement and in environmental work overall. Regardless of what brings you here today, I'm just trying to get to my next slide. Waiting. Sure, what's happening? Maybe it's, oh, there we go, that button. Regardless of what brings you here today, I'm grateful for your presence, and I humbly welcome you to the space that we're going to co-create together. I think Tanya said at the beginning of the session that I was hoping everybody could take up the table space at the front. I really want to engage with everyone, and if you're at the back, hey, I see you. Hi, great, yeah. It would be great if at some point when we're doing our activities, if you folks could move up to the front of the room, because one of the goals of today's session is to cultivate connections and network across our community here. And I would just like to make sure that everybody is able to do that. I'm now coming from the background of being an artist. Something that I also like to encourage people to do in this space is bringing a sense of openness and curiosity. We are going to do some things that you might not have done in a while. We might draw. We might write. We might use some of the materials that are in the center of your table. And I know when it comes to art making, some people are like, that's not my thing. I'm not expecting everybody today to leave as an artist. What I'm expecting is that everybody leaves with a sense of openness, and hopefully you try something new and push yourself outside of your comfort zone a bit, because that's sometimes what it requires working with young people. Now, on this slide, it says, I'd like to know your name, where you're coming from, what brings you here today, but there's so many of us in this room. It would take a very long time to go around and do introductions. So what I'd love is, I think, yeah, we have pairs here. I'd love if you could turn to somebody at your table, perhaps it's the person next to you, and introduce yourself, perhaps a little bit about what you do, but also what brings you to this workshop. We're going to take a couple of ideas from the audience, but we'll hold about 5 minutes here for folks to introduce themselves. Just turn to the person next to you. So go for it.
Whoa. Yeah, hi.
Hi.
I'm Moose. Nice to meet you.
I don't know if my lapel mic is on.
It's good. You're doing great. You're killing it.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're killing it. Love the confidence. Yeah.
I've used the lapel mic, but that's okay.
It's okay. No, they can't hear me. Yeah.
I feel like when I step onto the stage, I get really persona,
Yeah.
It's really good. It's really good. And then you're get them engaged, and then I'll hit them like with the real information, the stats, the alarming, the plan, and the on-ground work. So yeah. This is good. This is good. This is good. This is really good. Your name, where you come from, and what brings you?
Pronouns, but I was like, do people in Alberta do pronouns? Like she, her, they, them. I was like, I don't know if that's true. Like I know in my background, like everybody gives pronouns, but I know for some people, especially if they don't come from the community space, they're like, what are you doing? So I just left it to you. I'm gonna grab some water.
Yeah. Love it already. That sense of community and that sense of belonging.
Yeah.
It's just. What's your background?
Like my cultural background?
Yeah, your ethnicity.
My ancestors are Macedonian.
Okay.
It's like above Greece.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am half Sudanese
Okay, yeah.
and half Egyptian.
Very cool.
So I have that Arab
Yeah.
background. So whenever I'm going into the African community, they're like, "You're not African.
Yeah.
You're Arab." And I'm like, "Egypt isn't Africa." Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
About one more minute, folks. I'm pretty good with timing. Yeah, yeah. Okay, about 10 seconds to just wrap up your conversations. Wow, what a great group. That was so fast, everyone. Awesome. Hopefully those conversations were a bit fruitful, even though they were just introductions. I'd love to get a sense of what are people looking for from this space today. We could, once again, let's just do popcorn style, and I'll repeat back what I hear for the recording. What are people hoping to get from today's session? Yeah.
I'll share. Well, in our business as a seasoned professional, we're continually hiring, youth and young workers. And
Yeah.
from my perspective, it's really trying to understand their mindset so I can drive and empower and learn how to lever their mechanisms for, doing the best that they can be.
Mm-hmm. So trying to understand the mindset that young people are coming in with into the work environment. Great. Yeah, from an employer perspective. Yes. Yeah.
I feel like it's from like the last session, but it's way more relevant to this workshop. But like,
Okay.
Inspiring like senior leadership to adopt sustainable practices in a way that like makes like financial sense to them, because that's what they care about.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a different context, but like inspiring change, like.
We have a mic coming to you now. Yes.
Oh no.
I think they have like just so folks have this context, because I know not everybody likes to be mic'd, but the conference has a special like QR code that folks can scan to have in translation into different languages. So when you speak into the mic, there might be somebody in the room who needs something in French or a different language, and it allows them to engage more fully in the session.
Je parle français aussi.
Okay, well, there you go, but who knows what languages are in the room. So if you could just continue with what you were saying.
That was pretty much it. It's
Yeah.
more like, how can like an individual contributor help to inspire change in people that are more senior than them, or like the decision makers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it also sounds like there's like a relational aspect to this work. How can we build and strengthen bonds between like higher leadership and folks that are just coming into the workforce? Yeah. Oh wow, great hands, I love this. Pass on the mic.
So kind of building on that,
Yeah.
we actually were talking about how youth don't need any help. We just need the old people to party more so that we can solve the problems.
Yeah. What background are you folks coming in with?
I was talking about my own experience working with teaching conflict resolution skills to youth
Okay, yeah.
and discovering how often youth actually are better at conflict resolution than non-youth.
Yeah, there's a lot we can learn from youth, and something we'll definitely chat about, and Moose will speak at a little bit more, is just how much we can learn when we center youth voices and see them as leaders in their own right. So thank you so much for bringing that up. We have another thought man with the purple shirt. Yes.
That would be me.
Yes.
Yeah, so this one was, I was chatting with someone who was very early into their career, 6 months into their career.
I think you might need to bring the mic a bit closer. Yeah.
Is that better? Yep.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was talking to someone who was 6 months into their career, so very early on into their career. And in that 6 months, they had gone, their whole sort of thought about humanity had shifted from being very positive to being very negative about humanity. And I just think in such a short period of time to change someone's views so negatively, I think that's a very, very sad state of affairs. I don't think it's a general thing, but if that's happening at all, I think those are the kinds of things we need to be figuring out.
Yeah, so just building on that, perhaps like one of the questions we can be asking ourselves is, how do we create a sense of hopefulness in our spaces? How do we create a sense of optimism while still being realistic about the circumstances that are at hand in front of us? That is a great suggestion and point. Yeah.
Kind of just to build further off of that, introducing human aspects to the work that we complete every day. That can mean different things to different people. It could be in an internal kind of, corporate space, or it could be even in your smaller businesses where it's how you're integrating yourself or integrating others. But that human aspect can never be understated.
100%. And something that we've spoken a lot about at this conference is the rise of AI and machine learning. And something I hope that we can think about in today's session is, what does it mean to be human? How do we cultivate spaces where people feel like they can show up authentically as themselves, especially as we move into this time of increased technology, AI use. I think it's going to become increasingly important to think about what are the things that connect us beyond our interactions with the tech. Any last central things we want to cover? Yes.
I work for an NGO, and we do stream restoration as an example, and youth are looking for volunteer opportunities, and we want to be able to engage them. We want them to join, become members, but we also want to teach them. So there's like a two-way thing there, I guess. How do we reach them?
Yeah, that's a great question. How do we create, also, I guess one of the questions is, how do we create spaces where youth can show up as themselves, but also be open to receiving education and mentorship and feedback? Is that right? Yeah. Okay. I'll take one more. Yes.
For me, it's two things.
Yeah.
The first is about giving back succession and knowledge transfer. And the second is I've got two young men in their 20s that are trying to figure out the world. And it's not just climate change, social injustice, everything else that's, we heard uncertainty in this conference. It's how do they plan their future with all of this around us? Thank you.
Yeah. Speaking of how do we plan the future in uncertainty, I'd like us to take a moment to ground ourselves in this moment and in this space. So if folks feel comfortable, everybody just plant your feet into the ground wherever you are. Just take a moment to do that. Yeah. And if you feel comfortable, you can close your eyes and soften your gaze, or soften your gaze if you feel comfortable. And we're gonna just take a collective breath together. We're gonna inhale, hold it for a second, and exhale. Let's do that one more time as a group. Inhale, hold it, and exhale. And when you feel comfortable, you can reopen your eyes and join this space. I think it's really important in these times where there's so much going on, so many things happening very quickly, for us to just pause and center down. And just in response to what you were saying, how do we do that? I think the breath is one of those things, first and foremost, when we think about what it means to be human and just connecting to that part of ourselves, that breath. So thank you for joining me in that. I'm going to go ahead and try to click onto this next slide, goals for this session. So I'm very grateful that folks offered different questions to this space, concerns. And what I do want to say is how this presentation will unfold will greatly depend on what you folks also offer, what we're making here together. So everybody is a knowledge keeper in their own right. You all have gems of knowledge that you hold within yourself. And really my role as a facilitator and as a leader, as much as I'm going to be talking about different strategies as a young person myself, I also encourage you folks to share as we go through this presentation. And here are some of the key goals that we'll be moving through together. First is to explore actionable strategies. So what does it actually look like to engage youth in environmental careers? The second goal is to share tools for creating brave spaces for climate conversations. How do we create space where folks feel safe, where folks feel like they can show up and talk about things that are really challenging, like ecological grief, maybe the housing crisis, maybe how all of these things are interconnected. And the third goal, which we've already started to do, is to build connections across this community that we have right here, right now in this space. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Building on what Moose is going to share later, youth are not just the leaders of tomorrow, they are the leaders of today. And some of you folks in the audience already shared this. Youth come into our spaces, into the workplace, with a lot of different knowledge and backgrounds of their own. The energy, ideas, and actions they bring now are shaping the future. So they're an active part of the environment that we're creating. However, once again, as some of you already identified, despite their contributions, young people are often overlooked, unsupported, or underestimated when it comes to environmental leadership. Here are some stats to keep in mind. Young people today are navigating immense challenges that affect their ability to take action. Climate anxiety and mental health are real topics of concern. A 2023 national survey found that 78% of Canadians ages 16 to 25 report that climate change negatively impacts their overall mental health. No surprise. There's broader pressures. The RCMP's 2023 Youth Trends Report highlights how climate change, technology, media, social media are creating unprecedented mental health challenges for young people. And according to the Ledger's 2024 youth study, Generation Z, or Gen Z, is more likely than millennials to believe that climate change can be limited but they take less action. So even though they know climate change is a big issue, there is this sense of hopelessness and sadness and apathy because they're like, what can we do? It feels like such a big challenge and topic to like grapple with independently. And that's where our the work of higher leadership and folks in mentorship roles really comes into play. Recognizing the emotional work that's connected to climate action. It's not just about what's happening on the ground, what's happened, like forest fires or housing crisis. It's about recognizing that there are emotional aspects to this work that are impacting how people can show up in the space. So if youth are already leading, but barriers like mental health struggles, systemic exclusion are holding them back, how can we shift this narrative? Okay, these are some of the stats, but that's okay. Yeah, youth are more worried, anxious, and angry about climate change. They're more likely to seek out support for dealing with negative emotions related to climate change. But it's just challenging to navigate. So what can we do? How can we actively shift the narrative around what youth are capable of? And how can we create spaces where young people feel empowered, not just in an abstract sense, but genuinely feel like they can make a change instead of being overwhelmed into inaction? I'm going to provide some offerings for how we can navigate that, but a part of this work will be brainstorming collectively as well. So the first offering I have is to acknowledge. This seems pretty simple, but bear with me. I think it's important to recognize and validate youth perspectives, passions, and experiences in environmental work. This can look like a number of different things. With my organization, the Starfish Canada, we annually put a call out for top 25 environmentalists, which recognizes youth under 25 who are working tirelessly across the country to create a better future. And this is a program that you folks, because I think there's a lot of employers and mentors in this space, but even youth, this is a program that you folks can nominate folks for when you see young people doing great climate action work. And there's folks who come from a wide range of different disciplines. Since 2010, the Top 25 program has amplified and connected over 300 environmental youth leaders and inspired hundreds of different applicants to share their stories. And as a person who received this award in the past, I can attest to that. Something that was really cool that came out of this program was not only I received mentorship from an environmental sustainability professional in a sector different from my own, which is in an arts background, but I got to connect with youth leaders across the country simply through LinkedIn and people sharing the fact that they were also involved in this program. So through being a part of this program, I was able to, there was how do I explain this? I was able to connect with other youth and mobilize and build on actions already happening across the country. So I didn't feel as alone in the work that I was doing in Ontario, because I'm initially from Toronto. There's people who come from a lot of different backgrounds, as I said. There's artists, musicians, climate strike organizers, social media campaign leaders, founders and speakers, and this program celebrates youth and makes them feel like, makes them feel like their contributions are seen and valued. And this is just one example of what the Starfish is doing, but I'd encourage you to think about what does recognition look like in your own organizations. Well, it's great to know about this program. This could look different within the context of your work depending on where you're coming from. So it could, you could nominate a youth for this program, but you could also, within your own organizations, take time to chat with youth and figure out what their passions are and figure out how to support that. The next offering I have comes down to engagement. At the Starfish, this looks like a number of different things, but in my own work, what engagement looks like is active listening. It's one thing to say that you're listening, but it's another thing to genuinely listen to hear versus listen to respond. And what does that mean? It means instead of hearing what a youth is saying and immediately presenting them with solutions to problems that they're facing, it means listening to just what they're saying overall and then responding in a way that is meaningful. So sometimes this can take a variety of different forms, but in my own work, it's looked like creating like community agreements with youth in collaboration with youth, asking them what do you need to feel safe and seen and brave in space. And as somebody who comes from more of a facilitation background, and like this might be a new idea, and it might seem a little bit like, why are we creating a community agreement? But asking youth what they need to feel seen and heard is really important, especially when it comes to climate dialogue, because youth are coming in with a variety of different emotions. As I'm sure that you folks are also familiar with, there's a sense of grief and loss that people are experiencing collectively. It's not just youth. So part of active listening is creating space to listen to those experiences, not necessarily therapizing, but just taking in what a person has to say. It can also look like real-time check-ins with youth to see what they're working on and really centering the human aspects of what they're doing. It can also look like engaging in online platforms where youth are. I know things are constantly shifting in the social media landscape. We have Instagram, there's X, there's Facebook, there's TikTok, there's a lot of different platforms, but a part of being able to engage with youth isn't necessarily like trying to go on those platforms and reach them. It's also about like getting youth themselves to like asking youth what platforms are like they already use, and then allowing them to use those platforms in the workspace, if that makes sense. The other piece I wanted to talk about, somebody mentioned internships earlier, so offering opportunities. I think it's important to introduce environmental concepts and career paths early on in school programs. There might be folks in higher education here, creating opportunities for youth to actually get out into the field. I think in one of yesterday's sessions, there was a conversation around creating partnerships between higher education institutions and industry. And I think that is a really exciting prospect, especially when we think of how to support youth leaders into entering the workforce. Some other things to consider include leveraging strategies like gamification, so incentivizing, approaching things from more of a sustainability lens or a mindful lens in the sort of work that we do. At the Starfish, we work with folks in both the private and public sector to offer capacity building programs that focus on environmental literacy, advocacy, and strategy, specifically with youth. We have the Youth Environmental Changemakers Summit, which anybody can apply for if they're, well, anybody under 25 can apply for. If they're interested in sustainability, and once again, it connects them to this larger network, because one of the things that we're seeing is is youth are experiencing a sense of loneliness and isolation in their work, and especially coming out of the pandemic. And then we have educational workshops that we offer in schools and with corporate organizations that focus on this as well. The last piece of this framework that I was going to share is amplifying what's already going on. So focusing on empowering youth as the next generation of stewards. We talked about listening, learning from, and providing platforms for their leadership. What does that actually look like? I'm going to provide one example. At the Starfish, we have this bilingual online journal that serves as a platform to amplify the voices of young people who care about making a difference on environmental sustainability. So our editorial program engages volunteer writers and content creators and editors from across the country who are interested in publishing their work. and this provides youth an opportunity to share on the various topics that they're interested in, such as conservation, biodiversity, lifestyle changes, or innovative technologies like AI. And youth are invited to share their ideas and perspectives in this journal, and it not only provides them clout when entering the workspace, but also provides them with a creative outlet to express themselves. The key takeaway that I hope folks are getting from all of these different offerings and ideas is that in the social change ecosystem, and when we think about environmental work, everyone has something unique to offer, and there is no one fix all solution to the different ways to engage youth. Every youth requires something different, and what's important is listening and meeting people where they're at. Now, that's a lot of talking from me. Let's just take a second, and perhaps what we'll do is we'll move into this next activity that I have here. Yeah, which is expanding horizons of possibility. As I mentioned, there's so many different ways to engage youth, and one of the ways is through breaking outside of what we typically do in an organization. So being open to experimenting and trying new things. So in this exercise, what's going to happen is everybody should hopefully have some squares on their table. Yes? If you don't have squares, you are too far away. And I'd encourage you to come up to the front of the room. See, I made it mandatory.
That's good.
It's an invitation to move up and join everybody at the front. Unfortunately, with these mics, I can only go so far back. Okay. So hopefully everybody has squares, and there's pencil, crayons, markers, some writing utensils on your table. I'd like to encourage everybody to grab a square. We call these artist tiles. And we're going to engage in a bit of a fun exercise. Exciting? Everybody does not look excited. I know it's early afternoon, we've been here for a while, but let's get a little bit excited for this. We're going to do something fun. Yay! I love that. Okay. I see, gamification. I should have given this front table bonus points. Okay. So in this exercise, what's going to happen is I'm going to invite all of you folks to reflect on some moments in time, and then we're going to each create a piece of, I don't want to say artwork, but a piece of, we're going to create a creation. We're going to make something, and all of those pieces that we make will come together to form a collective artwork of some sort. I'm using the term artwork loosely because I know people get scared. There's no need to be scared. Okay, so returning to something we did earlier, I'd love if we could all just take another second to connect with our breath before doing this exercise. Everybody, just pause, plant your feet down into the ground again, and we're gonna take maybe like 3 breaths. We're gonna inhale, hold, exhale. Again, and exhale when it feels comfortable. And one more time. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. I often do this exercise in my own practice as a person in the world, as well as an artist. What you're gonna do is everybody grab a writing utensil. It can be a marker, a pencil, whatever. I should have grabbed one of those squares. It's okay. Maybe I'll ask Tanya to pass a square and a marker. Thank you. What we're gonna do is, in the center of your square, you are going to make a line, just across. Do not overthink it. It can be a wavy line, it can be like a jagged line, whatever sort of line you'd like, but you want to go across the center of your square. So mine might look like this. Beautiful, it looks like a mountain. Yours does not have to look like that. It can look like whatever you want. Beautiful. Now, above this line, if you have a pen on your table, I'd encourage you grabbing that utensil. I would like you to think about where you're joining this session from today. It could be you came here from maybe just across the road, Calgary. I don't know. You're from Calgary. It could be that you're coming from a place of curiosity today. It could be just a feeling, a place, a thing, a moment. Where are you coming in from today? Just over this line, I'd like you to write where you're coming in from today. I know this is abstract. I'm challenging people, I know. It's okay. Where are you coming in from? It can be a couple words, it can be a sentence. Do not overthink it. Whatever comes to mind is right. Okay. Are folks done? Maybe give me a thumbs up. I know we're not on Zoom, but a thumbs up is nice so that I know what's happening. Great, so almost everyone's done. Okay. Now I would like you to think about what led you into environmental work, climate action work. Just take a second to think about that. You will write what comes to mind underneath the line, but just take a second to think about what led you into this work. Yeah, below the line. So above the line was where you're coming in from today. Below the line is what led you here, really? What led you to this conference a long, long time ago? Maybe, I don't know. For me, I'll share my story in a minute, but I'm just going to give folks a moment to reflect. And perhaps it's not just one moment.
This is hard.
It's hard? Yeah?
Oh my goodness.
Are other people experiencing difficulty? First word's fine. Because sometimes if it doesn't make sense to our logical mind, inside, we know what has brought us to this moment. Maybe it was a feeling. Maybe for me, I really started to get involved in sustainability work when I saw there was a gas spill in the creek near my home. I'm from Scarborough, Ontario, and every morning I like to walk by the Highland Creek River. And one morning when I was walking, somebody had poured a whole bunch of gas into the water. And it was that moment, and this happened during the pandemic, where my heart broke. I was just like, what? How could this be so close in my backyard? Somebody just showing such little care and regard for the river. But maybe you don't have a specific moment like that. Maybe it was just when you were young, you used to love spending time in the forest or camping, or it could be you've just always had a passion for taking care of the birds. I know this seems really simple, but I think it's really important to connect with what is at the heart of why we do what we do. Okay, a lot of thinking in the audience. Okay, did everybody write something down? Yeah? Great. This next piece, I'm going to invite you to think about a place of significance to you. This could be outdoors. It could be anywhere really, but I'd encourage you to think about a place that brings you a sense of comfort, joy, and calm in your life. Does everybody have that place in their mind's eye? Yeah, thinking about it? Okay. Once you have that place in your mind, I'd like you to think about what does it feel like to, well, actually, what What is in that space? Like what colors, shapes, lines are in that space? What things are in that space? What do you hear in that space when you're there? No, just thinking. I mean, you could write. There's nothing against that, but I'd like for folks to just really think about that space. And then when you're ready, you can write about this space, or you can draw what that space looks like or feels like. And it doesn't have to be, I'm drawing a house. It could be, that house makes me feel joyful. I'm going to make a bunch of squiggles that feel joyful to me. Just grab any sort of drawing, writing utensil on your table. Could be a couple of different colors, and illustrate that, like the feeling of that place. It doesn't have to make logical sense. Below the line. Great question. No, it's not a big deal if it's above the line. But see, these are the important questions we need to ask. Normally, when I do these workshops, I'm much closer to folks, so I can sit there and draw with you. It's okay. I also usually have music, but that's okay. My voice is music. Oh, wow. Music, cue the music. I love that, thank you. Like 2 more minutes. Some people are really getting into it, which I love. And it's okay if you're not super into it. Do whatever feels right and meaningful for you in this moment. When was the last time folks drew for fun? Yesterday? Oh my God, I love that answer. For work? Oh, nice. Okay. Other folks? Your daughter. Yeah? Beautiful. Okay, I'm gonna give folks about 1 more minute because I still see folks drawing, but I really appreciate the support of the tech giving us some music to listen to in that little break. Drawing break. Okay. Okay, about 1 more, well, I already said 1 more minute, so 10 more seconds. Okay, and the music will slowly fade. Wow, oh yes, okay, love that. Okay, folks, so before I move into some key takeaways from this exercise, I'm curious, how was that? How was engaging in that exercise? Words. One word is fine. Popcorn style. Fun. Peaceful. Weird. Yeah, okay, we're gonna embrace that. Other words. Engaging. Reconnecting to childhood. Very cool. So what you folks hold in your hands, or on your table if you're not holding your square, is one part of a much larger piece that we're creating together, which is a horizon of possibility. Metaphors. Okay, so all of these pieces are going to come together to create our horizon of possibility. And the exercise is just affirming that each one of us is coming in from a different background, from a different space. And what's really important is for us to acknowledge that in the work that we're doing, especially with youth, because that is our reference point. And when we start with what are we passionate about, what do we enjoy, what is driving our leadership, when we start from that place of heart-centeredness, then it's much easier to engage in conversations around feelings, around environmentalism, et cetera. I'd just like to get a sense of what were some of the different stories that drove people into sustainability work, if anybody would like to share. Job? Do you want to elaborate on that? No? That's cool. That's fine. That's fine. Yeah. There's a person behind you, and then you can go. Yeah.
This was outside Canada. I lived near a refinery, and I would see smoke coming over our. Well, I'm not used to speaking on a mic.
That's okay.
There would be this smoke coming over, and like I was thinking as a little kid, can they do something about it with this smoke? Because this smoke was just affecting people's health and everything. And that's what triggered it. And I guess also my dad being very, how to say, environmentally conscious from the start, always making sure not to waste water or waste electricity and everything. So those two things.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing. I think, we were going to go to the man in front, and then we'll go over here to the man with the cap. Yeah.
Yeah, I come from a family, like multi-generation of farmers.
Yeah.
So like land stewardship was just like an embedded value since I was a kid. And then I was just conveniently assigned to the sustainable building portfolio when I was hired at SAPE because they needed somebody for it. Like, so just by chance, I landed in it. But I did tell them that background story kind of like in the interview process, so maybe that had a factor in it. I don't know. Maybe it was just chance.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the stories that we hold and that we carry with us are what connect us. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that. And something that came up in previous sessions as well at this conference is the importance of like oral knowledge sharing, especially when it comes to Indigenous perspectives. There's stories that haven't been written down, and that knowledge is still really important. And when it comes to like how we want to collectively build a future build sustainable futures moving forward, it's important to center and reflect on the different like beginning points that each one of us has had. Yeah.
So when I was in a grad school in Utah, I was working on a project on looking at the benefits of being in natural environments on brain health. So basically this meant we took people on a 4-day camping trip out in the desert while recording their brainwaves. So I had the opportunity to intellectually and experientially understand that if that the earth will take care of us, that again, if we have a connection or relationship with the earth and the environment, that it can help take care of us and address some of the mental health challenges and biological and physical health challenges that we might be experiencing. And it was after that I realized that that's not going to happen if we don't, take steps to, again, build that relationship with the land, make sure it's protected in different ways, and, all the animals and plants that are in those ecosystems. So for me, that was kind of a bit of a pivotal shift. And just to follow on your point about Indigenous perspectives, as I started working with more Indigenous people, it really started to dawn on me how there's so much wisdom there that's being untapped about how to have that relationship and just do things in a more sustainable fashion. So I've really tried to take a step back and let them lead the conversation there, because it's clear that they already have the answers, just they haven't necessarily been heard in the right ways.
Definitely. There's like one of the recurring themes in like this session is just how there isn't just one right way of doing things. There's lots of different ways into a conversation, and it's important to recognize and create different ways to engage. Like art making is just one way to start a conversation that can be accessible to folks who, like, it can transcend language barriers, it can transcend, like art and music in particular have the ability to connect us, especially in times of uncertainty and grief, because it feels like a very human thing to do, to create. Are there any other folks in the audience who would like to share their stories of how you started this work? We have a runner. We have a person running with the mic.
I used to work for Saskatchewan Government Insurance as a programmer analyst, and my job, I hated it. It was compiling reinsurance data, which, if anybody doesn't know, reinsurance is all the insurance companies around the world. They split the risk. And I came to understand that all of these insurance companies can see that climate change is impacting their profits, and they knew that it was going to be a problem. And I was like, this is a bigger problem than I realized. And I went up, I was really miserable at this job because it was like if you're a computer guy and you got to do this every day, it's really bad. But anyway, I was sitting in the cafeteria, and the sun, it was -30 outside in Regina, and the sun was just beaming in on me, and I'm sweating, and I'm like, why isn't this building capturing all this energy? There's so much energy everywhere, And then I started like looking into solutions, and realized like buildings are the biggest problem in terms of energy usage and in terms of material usage. But they can actually be built to like regenerate and be part of the solution. So that was my inspiration.
Yeah, Moose.
Yeah, I think I relate to you because I worked in tech. I think we're missing a lot of things on how to innovate, and sometimes the word innovation is misused. So as an engineer and as an IT analyst, I hated my job at the time because I'm like, I can't innovate, I can't change, I can't acknowledge what is happening, right? I can't bring that to senior leadership. So we have a crisis, and we'll talk more about it.
Yeah, so my name's Steven. I entered this industry through a partnership with Eco Canada, so that's how I got in. But before that, I started what I'm doing now, which is I'm founder of a job matching startup based in Calgary. Started about 9 years ago because we saw during the oil and gas recession, there was hundreds of thousands of people that lost their job in Alberta because of the crash in oil and gas prices. But that meant there was a flood of underutilized talent in the market. And it was this sort of experiment initially about how can we pivot this many people into new sectors of the economy, right? And that coincidentally ended up being the environmental sector is a big initiative that we ended up working in. So I think there are still millions of people in Canada that have very valuable skill sets that are extremely underutilized, and I think every problem in Canada, and even in the world with climate change and everything else, has a solution sitting in someone's head. It's just like they haven't been fully tapped, and I think that's really what motivates me and excites me, is that if we can just match people to problems faster, we're going to get through all of this stuff more easily.
Yeah. And it sounds like what you're talking about is like a strengths-based approach to problem solving, like recognizing what each person brings and recognizing that each person has ideas that are probably going to solve the problems that we face at this current moment in time. Oh, wow. Popping around.
Try not to yell this time. So I went to elementary school in the 90s where, recycle, reduce, reuse was the motto. And I feel like for perhaps many people, we're still stuck in this like 90s mindset of what recycling is and what repurposing can be. It can fully be like a full circle economy, circular economy, which I've heard there's some companies in Nanaimo which are spearheading this type of thing with building materials and clothing textiles and turning clothing into building materials, which is very cool. But I think that there's absolutely areas to exploit in terms of innovation for recycling and repurposing.
Yeah, taking a look at what something that I often think about is like, what does it mean to have a cradle to cradle approach? Like, what are the different questions that are important to ask yourself when making a product, but also like once the consumer has used a product, how do you, like, what happens to it? Like, how can you prevent it from going to landfill? And thinking through, how do I explain this? Thinking through what are the different steps involved in engagement with objects, I think is really important, whether that be, how you interact with them, where they go after you're done with them. There's a lot of different, how do I explain this? Different stages involved in managing products as well as getting rid of them. Like, if we could somehow collectively imagine ways to continuously recycle and provide nourishment to the earth rather than extracting from it, I think there's like real possibility there. Yeah.
More of a systematic change needed there too, because just because you throw something in the recycling bin, like, you think you're doing your part, but then I can't remember, like, it was some documentary, I can't remember the name. But like the amount of material that like actually gets recycled is quite low in Canada. Compared to like Europe, and a lot of it is like shipped off to like third world countries as waste. So it's like out of sight, out of mind, not in our backyard, but you think you did like your job by putting it in the recycling bin, which you did as the individual, but like systematically, like we're not actually we're not actually fulfilling that process.
There's various levels to the process. Okay, is there anybody else? I thought I saw a hand. We are nearing break time. Woo! So what's going to happen is we're going to have everybody take their tiles and we're going to hand them to Tanya. Yes. And your tiles are going to be incorporated into an artwork of some sort. that Moose will be referring to in the next part of this presentation. And depending on time, I might also create a little reflect back of some of the key insights that came out of that exercise. Is there anything you'd like to say before break? No. No? Okay, cool. Great. So some key takeaways from this part of the presentation so far. Youth are not just the leaders of tomorrow, they are the leaders of today. It's important to acknowledge, engage, and amplify their efforts through a variety of different means, and recognize that everybody requires different things based on where they're coming from. And last but not least, it's also important to expand horizons through imagination and action. We're going to build on this in the next part of the presentation, but I would like to thank you for sticking with us this far. We're going to take 15 minutes, and yes, it's 2:45. We're doing great on time. If you'd like to connect, this is the Starfish website, and my contact information is there. I'm looking forward to seeing you all back at 3 p.m. Thank you all.
Okay, thanks, and thanks for those who actually returned. That's awesome. But I really wanted to give a warm thank you to Sylvie. That was an inspiring and interesting and creative message and exercise. So I hope everyone took something away and has something that they can use in the future in their engagements with youth in their workplaces. So as we move on to our next presentation, I want to think about how entrepreneurship and environmental advocacy share a common foundation. So both require innovation, problem solving, and a drive to create meaningful change. While environmental advocates work to address critical issues such as climate change and sustainability, entrepreneurs develop scalable solutions that can transform these challenges into opportunities. From launching green startups to creating sustainable business models, young leaders can bridge the gap between environmental responsibility and economic growth. So I want to keep that in mind, and keep in mind what Sylvie walked us through, and I'd like to welcome Moose to the stage.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. It's an honor to be here, part of this amazing conference. My name is Moose. I'm the only Moose in Canada. You will not forget my name, okay? All right, so yeah, even though my name is Moosap, there's a P at the end, not a B, so a P at the end, but just call me Moose. A little bit of background of myself. I was a youth. I was a youth at risk. I was lost. So I went through struggles from everywhere. Trials, tribulations, intergenerational trauma, a lot. But today's presentation is about fostering that entrepreneurial mindset. And how can we change the ecosystem within our youth, especially from the ages of 14 to 30, okay? And I run an organization called Struggle is Your Success. Again, struggle is your success. Simple, right? It's a way of thinking that will lead you to the success that you need. All right, a little bit about me. I'm a proud Canadian, proud Calgarian, right? I'm a father. I have a 4-year-old. My ethnicity is from Sudan, North Sudan, right? I'm not tall, not dark, not light-skinned, but yeah, and I'm half Egyptian. So that's a little bit about me. I've done a lot of jobs from as an IT analyst, ERP, infrastructure, SAP, I've done a lot. And then I left corporate and I decided to foster the entrepreneurial mindset and build a nonprofit organization to where it is today. And then I also do a little bit of AI, but we could talk about that later. Cool. So what is SIYS? SIYS, SIS, Struggle is Your Success, a Black-led, innovative not-for-profit that fosters entrepreneurial skill building for youth, racialized, marginalized, stigmatized youth from the age of 14 to 30. How do we do it? Very simple. A 5-week program, 5 sessions, 5 hours. What's the program? Dream it, plan it, build it. What's the dream? What's the plan? And how you're gonna build. It's kind of like a Shark Tank, Dragon Den style, where we use youth innovative mindsets to capture their talents and use that talent to foster entrepreneurial skill building for them to go back to academia and back to employment, or have the opportunity for them to start a business. Cool? All right. Now I have a question for you. Why youth? Youth is important, but my question for all of you, do you actually believe, how many of you do you actually believe that youth are the future of today's generation? Raise your hand. Okay. All right. So, did you know today, I'm going to share some alarming stats here, and how can employers in the environmental sector can foster that relationship within youth, okay? Today in Canada, there's over almost 800,000 youth on the category NEET, N-E-E-T, not employed, not in education, and not in training. These are stats from 2023. The new stats are coming out, I think, in June from Stats Canada, with the new numbers. This is a problem. I'm gonna help you solve it through entrepreneurial skill building, especially in the environmental sector. Now, let's talk about Alberta. In Alberta today, 2024, there's 100,000 youth in this category. Not employed, not in education, and not in training. And even though they're in education, they can't get a job. And even though they have training, they're still in a NEET category. So the question, the $1 million question, or the ecosystem question, or the solutions is how can corporate companies in the environmental sector and nonprofit organizations, how can they foster relationship building around entrepreneurial skill building to tackle this? Cool? You guys with me? Okay. So there's a survey from the Alberta Council of Environmental Sector that in 2020, 60% of youth are worried around climate change. And that's what, in the previous presentation, that causes a problem in the rise of mental health, in the rise of anxiety, and they don't know what they want. They don't know what to do. So we have a global crisis that we need to solve. But again, my presentation is around how to use entrepreneurial education and entrepreneurial thinking to tackle these solutions, especially with the rise of sustainable development, climate change, and how the environmental sector is booming in today's society. Can we all agree? Okay, my question for you. Raise your hand if you're in the environmental sector or not. Raise your hand if you've been in a situation like this. And you're confused. Or you're in the corporate sector and you're like, something like that. So if you really look, there's awareness, it's all tied together. There's the manager talking, there's knowledge. How can we accept knowledge? There's entrepreneurial activity, there's sustainable business. So it's all like this. It's not organized. Keep this thought for a second. Towards the end of the presentation, I'm gonna give you guys some methodologies that we can clean this up. Who wants to clean this up? Raise your hand. Okay, we're gonna use some methodologies to clean this up, okay? So, around that, I wanna take it a step further. Climate change and the environmental sector is booming, and we know that. But my question for all of you, right? Can somebody identify what the roles of sustainability, in the entrepreneurial sector? What does this mean? So I'll give you guys about a minute or two, right? Let's engage together. Sit down at your table. Somebody break down the roles of sustainable entrepreneurship or entrepreneurial thinking or entrepreneurial education. What does this mean in one word? What is it? Can we play a little bit some music? Because I'm gonna challenge you, not just challenge you, the activity later that you did around those squares are tied to entrepreneurial thinking and tied to a dream. I know it's confusing, but it's tied to a dream. I know it's confusing, but the goal is, let's go back. You want to clean this up, right? You guys want to clean this up? Okay, so tell me, what is the roles of sustainable entrepreneurship in the environmental sector using one word, please? Yeah, I'll give you guys interact. Talk, yeah, have a discussion, interact. You can only use one word, not two, one. I'll give you guys 1 more minute, 60 seconds, 1 more minute. Oh, I love the debates already. I love the debates. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Y'all got your one word? Yeah. Have you figured out your one word? Yeah. Okay, let's start with this table. Can we listen, please? Creativity. Why? It's okay. It's okay. All right. Creativity. I'll come back to the why later. This table. Balance. Relationships. Ideation. Innovation. Sure. Solution. I'm not going to tell you if you're right or wrong. Let's find out. Education, education, education. Our youth don't have the education. And our youth don't have the training. We keep focused on sustainable environments and sustainability, but we don't know how to get there. We always talk about entrepreneurship, but we don't know how to get there. And we talk about entrepreneurial skills, but we still don't know how to get there. That's a problem. And the word entrepreneurship is misused a lot in the ecosystem. I'm telling you because I'm a product of entrepreneurship. Education, education, education. So the question is, how can we foster education, training, knowledge towards the youth? They don't have it. Our youth come and say, hey, Dad, did you hear the news? There was an oil spill 5 years ago from BP. Can you tell me a little bit more of that? Is it going to affect? You're like, as a father, you'll be like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I can't answer that. Or the stress of climate change around what's happening in today's world. And how governments are going to address it. The US government, the Canadian government, what are they doing to address climate change? Are we actually fostering education with the youth? Are we? Are the schools actually fostering education around climate change? Let's find out. The importance of environmental entrepreneurship. A lot of companies, startups, they're stuck here in this. They're like, we want the impact. We want the impact. We want to save the energy. We want to save the environment. We want to save Mother Nature. But to do that, we're going to use innovation and technology. It's a bold statement. What is innovation? What is technology? What type of technology are you using? Here in this session, I'm telling you that this is not the proper approach. It starts at the bottom here. It starts collaborations and strategic partnerships that will foster economic opportunities, that will allow the youth to get their job that they need, to increase environmental impact using innovation and technology. Doesn't start there, starts here from the bottom. And I think we're missing that. We're missing the basics of what the youth are saying. We're not listening to them. So employers, startups, fathers, mothers, mentors, leaders, changemakers, policymakers, listening is key. Collaborative approaches and strategic partnerships is key. All right, so here's an example. I run a nonprofit organization called Struggle is Your Success using entrepreneurial skills. Eco Canada approached me. They're like, hey, we have a problem with the youth. Can you work with us? I was like, absolutely, 110%. Yes, because we know the rise of tech and the rise of AI, and paper is going to go away. And all these youth, what are they doing? I don't have my phone. But I don't know. All these youth are doing this on TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat. So, with the organization, what we did, we partnered with Eco Canada. We served about 40 youth over the course of 4 months, 10 youth per cohort. Today, half of those youth are back to academia, back to employment. And I wish if I brought one of the graduates today, because I was telling a colleague of mine here, I have a youth who graduated and she was struggling. She's indigenous and she's from the BIPOC community. And using the entrepreneurial lens, she started a waste management company. And her look it up. You can find it on Google. She's on LinkedIn. Her waste management company is called Harmony Babes. A crazy name, right? But you know why it's Harmony Babes? Because she wanted to educate indigenous communities on the importance of recycling, and each person who recycles properly, she calls them a babe, which that is a community and a sense of belonging and a sense of safety for the youth to innovate. Question? They're just trying to get involved.
The idea comes later?
The idea comes later, yeah.
That's the opposite of how I always thought about it.
Yeah. Great. So, youth are playing a significant role in entrepreneurship and in green entrepreneurship and in entrepreneurship in general. At 2024 report, 32% of young entrepreneurs are focused on sustainable business practices, which means they are going back to employment, working at McDonald's or getting a career to build capital and graduate, right? And using a problem to solve what's happening in today's ecosystem. Okay? Here's an activity. Again, let's play that music again. Hold on. Whoa. What's missing with this traditional model? We talk about career development, right? We talk about resume writing, right? We talk about you got to get a job. So in order to get a job, you have to write down your goals and get some experiences and know your interest and know your values and go back to school and finish high school and understand what your skill sets. And that will lead you to the career you want. My question for all of you, which I challenge you, what's missing with this old traditional model? Because in today's society, this ain't working. So, 3 minutes, 2 words. Music, please. 2 words only. You have it. One more minute. I'll give you guys one more minute.
I sent you a text. I have some really interesting ideas on how you could quantify your impact, like based on need status.
Sure.
So basically, again, if you can track need status and like, employment income, like from like graduates, like retrospectively, you could really articulate how your program is producing a lot of value.
Absolutely. Okay.
Yeah,
Let's talk about it.
So no,
Cool.
that's what I'm listening to. So I want to share that.
Okay.
But I sent it on this.
Okay. All right. Okay, let's back to. Have you figured out your 2 words yet? All right. Can I get your attention? Right here. Okay. Let's start at the back. What's your 2 words?
One word was contribution.
Contribution. Okay. It's critical thinking, right? So, what's the second word? If you don't have it, that's fine.
We have purpose. Contribution and purpose.
Contribution and purpose. Love it.
Connection and mentorship.
Connecting and mentorship. Yes. Okay, here. Middle.
Network and opportunity.
They all tie it together, yes?
Ours were similar. We had passion and relationship.
Cool. These are all great. But the 2 words are, because they all tie together, everything is connected. Creativity and innovation. Our youth don't know how to become creative when writing their resume. They're missing that. That spark that makes them unique. At the same time, our youth don't know how to innovate around their goals and values and their skills. They can have the education, but there is no innovation. And my job is to bridge those gaps together. So, in order to do that, do you guys all agree? Yeah? Creativity is needed today. What makes you stand out? Why should I hire you? It's more a sense of belonging, but it's more of a storytelling. A lot of employers today, they don't actually look at the resume. They want to know the person. They want to know their creativity. They want to know how creative, how are you going to be creative in the ecosystem? How are you going to contribute to the solution? The word around innovation would be allowing them to express themselves, right? Allowing them to express themselves.
So not necessarily innovate like a process or idea.
No. We'll come to that.
Yeah.
We'll come to that. It comes down to the presentation.
Okay.
So creativity, innovation, right, has a new method. Because yes, you're right. These youth don't know how to create. They don't know how to become creative, and they don't know how to innovate, and how to talk to a 14-year-old around that. Here's the method: human-centered thinking. So what is human-centered thinking? It's very important. Human-centered thinking is an approach to problem solving that puts people. We are designing for the heart of the process. The human-centered design process begins with empathy for the people we're designing for, which means allowing the youth to be empathetic about themselves and bringing forward thinking to the table. It's very important. So I highly recommend for you guys to write human-centered thinking. Creating that safety net, creating that belonging. A lot of these youth don't have a place to belong. They can't express themselves. They don't have mentors. They don't have leaders. They don't have resources, and they get stuck. And once they get stuck, what they do, they go in their room, play PlayStation, and Xbox, and Call of Duty, and they never get out of their room. Yeah, it can. Yeah, it can be. Yeah. So the question is, how do we get there? How do we use HCT? What, how, and where? Like, how do we create that? Through the 4 C's: collaboration, critical thinking, creativity, and communication. Talk to the youth. I don't think we're talking to the youth enough. And a friend of mine said that we're putting too much pressure around the youth. We feel that it's their problem. It's their problem that they can't get a job. It's their problem that they can't go to school. I don't think so. I believe that it's our problem, our leaders, is to collaborate and create and use critical thinking approaches around the 4 C's that will allow us to create that safety net that we're looking for. That safety net using the 4 C's allows you to innovate and use entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial thinking. This is supposed to be a video, but once you create that, are we able to play it? No, it's okay. But once, if we use the 4 C's, right, to innovate and use entrepreneurial thinking, this happens. This happens. It's not just putting the youth in, taking them to basketball and rec and addressing their basic needs. A lot of these youth are in their head, and they're very creative, and they're very innovative. but they need that mentor. They need that organization. They need those resources. They need Eco Canada. They need other employers to create that safety net for them to speak what's in their mind. So I'm not going to talk about design thinking, but I really want to talk about innovation because innovation is a big word, and I want to simplify it. It's mostly used around tech startups and around engineering firms, right? We want to innovate, but what does that mean? I would highly challenge you on what is innovation? What actually means? It's everything. Innovation is everything. It's a way of life in modern technology today. It's a goal, it's a vision, it's a product, it's research, and it's an idea, it's technology, it's business, it's history, it's value, it's a value system, it's everything. Everything that you do in your life, in your personal life and career life, is all about innovation and creativity. You're always constantly changing the narrative on how to be the best version of yourself. Yes?
You actually believe that most people are living that way?
No, I'm not. No, not all of them. No.
I would say most people are living the exact opposite.
They're living the exact opposite. Why? That's why they're
living the same 90% or 80% of the same thoughts every single day.
which is the traditional approach. It's the traditional approach, which is not working.
I agree.
It's not working. So the opportunity here is how can we have an innovative mindset to tackle real world problems? Innovation starts with inspiration. It starts with creativity. Once you have inspiration and you have the creativity, it leads to analysis, then it leads to technology, then it leads to development, then it leads to teamwork, that leads to success. Again, it goes back to what I said here, collaboration. We're stuck, I'll go back here. We're stuck in that. We're always searching for the impact. We're always searching for that type of technology, that new system. But we're not understanding the importance of strategic partnerships and collaboration, which can be a ripple effect and can be a wraparound service that can tackle the crisis of what our youth are going through. People think that the word collaboration is about a referral. Hey, I'll refer you to this. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking like strategic partnerships, proper MOUs in place that can foster the problem that what the youth are going through. I'm sorry, sometimes I'm a little bit harsh, but it's a true reality. We've impacted over 350 kids. I have a graduation next week. I have a graduation in Edmonton. So that's nurturing the opportunity for these youth to tackle what they're going through. I'll open the floor for questions in a bit, but I just want to continue with the presentation because we need to become more than just mentors, more than just leaders. It's a mindset. Innovation is a mindset. Entrepreneurship is a mindset. So the key words The key takeaways of today, 3, entrepreneurial skill building, innovation, and creativity. All of those 3 are tied to a mindset. It's your mind. How can you have an innovative mindset? How can you have a creative mindset? How can you have an entrepreneurial thinking mindset? How? And the solution to that is collaborative approaches, collaborative partnerships, and clear communication. We're not clear in our messaging. And I think there's a lot of, I've seen it in my work. I've seen a lot, there's not clear communication, and we struggle with that. My colleague in her presentation, she said acknowledgement. Do we acknowledge the youth? Do we? Do we actually acknowledge what they want? It's a question that I'll leave for you guys to answer. Once you have an innovative mindset, an entrepreneurial mindset, a creative mindset, it leads to a sustainable mindset. Once you have a sustainable mindset, oh, you can tackle any problem. You can tackle any problem. Because a sustainable mindset will lead to innovative change and sustainable impact. It's what you were asking for before. And what other companies were asking. They're like, we want the impact, but we don't know how to get there. It's a disruptive approach. So please take a picture of this. It's important. It will help you understand how you can support the youth today. And you can address questions about an oil spill or a crisis around climate change. Right? And I'm just focusing on the disruptive innovation, the dare to take action. Long-term activation, stakeholder engagement, multi-level thinking, that's after. Not important. Once you have a sustainable mindset, what happens? Do you see how this is cleared now? Using an innovative approach, using HCT, human-centered thinking, being empathetic around the problems, it becomes clear. It becomes clear. And it leads to sustainable development. And then that way, you have the youth that you want in your company. And then you also have the opportunity to support them and have the resources in place. Your company rises, your firm rises, and the crisis that we're going through around need status drops. Then identify your values while you're doing that. Put an ideal picture while you're doing that. Write your goals down while you're doing that. Entrepreneurial thinking and entrepreneurial education is going to, in the next probably 5 to 10 years, is going to be a key aspect in training in every corporate environment. I see it. So I'm going to open the floor to questions, and let's have a discussion. Yes.
Yeah, so we were just saying, like, I totally see the value for young people learning these skills, but where do you see kind of the level of industry adoption? Because I've seen it in companies I've worked in where there's like young, creative, innovative people,
right?
But they're not heard. Like they like the senior leadership doesn't care. They're like, nope, this is what we're doing.
Again, senior leadership needs to adapt to the entrepreneurial thinking. Senior leadership needs to adapt to a creative mindset. Senior leadership needs to adapt that they need to implement training in place for allowing these creative entrepreneurs or entrepreneurial thinkers in the career that they want to solve real world problems. So you're right, they're creative, but they're not heard. So a training like this, I am more than happy to sit down with senior leadership.
Do you do that? Do you have like industry, like for like the hiring people? Like do you have,
with HR, yes. I've done it with Hewlett Packard, my previous employer.
Yeah.
They're like, we have a huge turnaround. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. They're like, half of like our employees left us. And I'm like, I was one of them.
Yeah, because eventually those people leave if they never get to like try something.
It's back to the need status.
Yeah.
So changing the corporate mindset around entrepreneurial thinking. So that's a key aspect. Thanks you for your question. Did I answer it?
Yeah. I was just because I know this program is like aimed at youth, but yeah. So I was just wondering if there's a program aimed at that level.
Yeah. So our organization is opening a secondary opportunity to put a training in place for corporate companies. Our not-for-profit is a registered not-for-profit that has a social enterprise angle to it. We are not a charity. We will be a charity in the next year. But we go into corporate companies like Hewlett Packard, like Ego Canada, like other corporate companies where we foster that entrepreneurial thinking for them so they can ease the process that can be more effective, efficient around the HR departments.
When I think of the entrepreneurs that I know, they're risk takers and they wouldn't fit in a corporate culture, and that's why they've chosen an entrepreneurial path.
Yeah.
And it works for them, and they have all failed at some point and gotten back up and kept going. And how do we get, how does that fit with the corporate world? Because and I totally get like encouraging youth to have that entrepreneurial mindset, but we have to be willing, I guess as an employer, to let them make mistakes or to, I don't know, catch or be part of those mistakes. I don't know, how does that fit?
It fits, again, around the training, right? I think HR departments and employers need to put a training in place for the youth that they're gonna hire between the age of 18 to 30, to give them the opportunity to make mistakes and foster that entrepreneurial thinking. And yes, they are risk takers, right? They do fail, right? Most entrepreneurs fail. I'm one of them. I failed multiple times, but thank God I'm here. I'm alive. Both of my companies are doing very well. So, yeah, it's at the end of the presentation. I'll show you what you're talking about that will allow how it fits within corporate companies. And part of it, a huge part of it is leadership. Allowing youth to become the leaders, because they are the future generation of today's world, right? Allowing them to be the voice, rather than senior leadership becoming the voice. And I encourage senior leadership to be part of those discussions. So when I say, I'm an executive director of a not-for-profit, I sit down with my youth every single day around a round table, right? I give them the ability to have that sense of ownership, that they are the creators of today's generation. And give them that sense of belonging where they have the ability to lead, or just think that they can lead through values driven. And again, if it's around influential leaders or influential companies or influential resources like Starfish, they have a summit coming up. I'm done this presentation. I'm sending probably like, I don't know, 50, 60 emails to my youth. Are you in the engineering sector, in the environment sector? We got a summit. Do you want to speak? Do you want to talk? Do you want to learn? Show up to my office. Collaborative, purposeful, learnable. If you give the youth the ability to learn and speak about their struggles and speak about what they're going through, they'll adapt because they're in here. So, here's an activity. Keep in mind, I'm an AI guy, okay? You cannot find this on ChatGPT. And if you want to Google it, go ahead, but even the answers on Google are wrong because I developed my own thing. What is a dream? What is a dream? So we're gonna work together. What does the D stand for? What does the R stand for? What does the E stand for? The A and the M. Because it ties to that activity that you did. It's very hard. I'm gonna make you guys think and make you guys be innovative and creative at the same time. So, I'll give you about 7 minutes. What is a dream? Yeah. Oh, you had a question? Go ahead. Before we start, we had, yeah.
I was going to ask you, you mentioned that I wrote down 11% of these, it's 15 to 29, I think it says.
Yes, 15 to 29, need status.
Not employed, not in education, not in training. I'm wondering if you have statistics on how many of these people were actually productive employees who are just like fed up with this system because they don't want to participate in it, versus how many of them are lazy and get paid whatever to sit on their asses and they don't care to be productive because maybe they've, that's just their idea of what life is meant to be. Do you have any statistics on, I guess what I'm asking you is like, how many people could actually be entrepreneurs of that demographic versus how many are just, not engaged?
I love your question. I do have those stats. It's not out yet. I'm working with the entrepreneurial, the Hunter Hub Entrepreneurial Thinking at the University of Calgary. They're doing this research with me. So I'll provide those stats for you after, if that's okay. I guess you can send me your email and I'll send it to you. Yeah. On how many of today's youth want to be entrepreneurs, and the number is really high. Yeah, they're really high because most of them want to be influencers. Most of them want to be YouTubers. Most of them want to be TikTokers and Snapchatters. And they want to leverage, keep in mind, they want to leverage social media in the career that they want. So I have a youth right now who built his TikTok page around mechanical engineering. And he's doing reels and innovative reels on simplifying the teachings of mechanical engineering for students around Mount Royal University and University of Calgary. So the number is high, and it might grow high in the next, I don't know. So it's not just entrepreneurship of starting a business, but the entrepreneurial thinking. So,
it was on that note. I was just wondering, like, do you see like entrepreneurs and like intrapreneurs in a company as like totally separate categories?
Yes.
Or, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions before we start this activity? I feel that you guys are like, okay, so let's have about 5 minutes. Let's work together. I'll come and sit down with you guys. What is a dream? What is a dream? What the D stands for, and how to cultivate that dream. If you have a dream, what do you need to do? If you have a dream, what do you need to do to make that dream come true? And just, yeah, think. Can we increase the music a little bit? So what's the D stand for? What's the R? What's the E? What's the A? What's the M? Yeah, collaborative, yeah. So, okay. So now, before I tell you the answer to this, we'll go around and then my colleague is going to tie the dream to this activity and how the key takeaways of today is to really hone on that dream and hone on that opportunity where you are the vehicle of your life. You are the vehicle of change. You are the vehicle of disrupting the system. So we'll start here. Please tell me what the dream stands for.
Oh, here, you can use this one.
And there's a gift, by the way.
Oh.
Yeah.
For
With me. Yeah.
D, we picked desire because, of course, you have to desire what your dream is. R, for responsibility. You can have a dream, but you have to take responsibility for getting it. If you dream it and you don't really do anything about it, then it's just a pipe dream. E, we put engage. Well, we have two, engage and energy. You got to put energy into it. A, you have to action it. We also talked about being achievable. You can have very grandiose dreams. You might not think they're achievable, but they probably are. And then M is measurable. So you can tell we come from the corporate world. You have goals, and they have to be measurable and achievable, and yeah. So is that?
Okay. Okay. Next table, please.
Okay, we broke the rules and did like 4 words.
Okay.
Determination, daring, diligence, and direction. R, we have reach, reward, and risk. E, we have energy, engaged or engagement, and entrepreneurial. A, action, ambition, and aspiration. And M, motivation, maintenance, mentorship, and meaningful.
Cool. That's awesome. Yeah. Let's stay more here. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so D, you put drive. R is?
Reciprocity.
And then E is having that vision, envisioning what you want to achieve. A, having an ambition, and M is materialize, so finding ways to make it happen.
Okay.
So D, determination. R, resilience. E, entrepreneurial. I feel like that was a little too easy. A, ambition, and M, motivation.
M, motivation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so me and my table. Drive, D, drive. R, research. You know, you need to put in the work and figure out how you're going to do it. E, emotion. I think that's pretty important. You know, if it's something that you're really passionate about, then obviously you have a better chance of achieving it long term. I got A, attempt, try it. And M, monitor. So like the more you're working towards it, see if you're still aligned with what you're set out to do. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Cool. So the answer to the word dream in the context of entrepreneurial thinking and innovation and design thinking and HCT, human-centered thinking. In our organization, we built this model, and this model is being published by the University of Calgary very, very soon. But you have the power to identify the dream, the breakdown that means to you. But in the nature of entrepreneurial thinking and the nature of innovation and design thinking and breaking the system and fostering and building relationships, the answer and the winner of the closest answer to that will be, where is it? Tech? Can you help? Oh, there it is. Yeah, there it is. Yes. So dream is D for drive, R for resilience. You have to have that resilience. E for elevation, right? Once you have that resilience, you have the ability to elevate. And then while you're elevating yourself, you have that aspiration because you're part of that journey. It's a long process. During that long process, you need momentum. And momentum is through the resources and through collaboration. So the winner of that table is that table over there, right? So let's clap for them, please. You get free mentorship with me and free collaboration with me, and then any of the youth that you guys work with will enter my program absolutely free with 2 tickets to the Calgary Flames games. Yeah, I'm serious. I ain't joking. Yeah. So I'll get your names, please. So let's clap for them one more time. Keep in mind that you have the ability to identify what the dream is. And then my colleague here is going to talk about how it ties to this art and why are we creating this sense of belonging and sense of safety. So we'll come back to questions and answers, but you are the driver of your ship, right? You are the driver of your ship. Right? Speak to the youth. Allow the youth to innovate. Allow the youth to talk. There is no such thing as a bad idea. Doesn't exist in my books. Right? But there's ability to work around the idea. Right? And change the idea. Thank you. So yeah, you want to talk about how the dream ties to this? And if you guys want a copy of the presentation, I'm more than happy to send it to you. If you want stats, I'm more than happy to send it to you. And if you want me to come to your company, absolutely free of charge, I am more than happy to foster the entrepreneurial thinking and the entrepreneurial journey around HR departments and allowing the youth to be the future generations of today's society. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Moose. Am I back? Yes, I am. Wow, end of day. How's the energy? How are people? 100%? That's the energy? Are people like, give me a thumbs up if you're doing well. If you're like, oh my goodness, it's the end of the day, I need to get out of here. If you're like, done. Let's see that meter. Okay, what's the energy? Some people are like, okay, on their way out, and then we have a lot of middles. That just helps me know what type of energy to bring to this particular moment in time. So thank you so much for that. And thank you so much, Moose, for all of those incredible frameworks and tools that people can leverage into their organizations to support youth from an entrepreneurial lens. So earlier, you might recall, there was a lot more people in the room, and then we had a break. I invited folks to think about moments that impacted your sustainability journey. And everybody created an artist tile, which we have on the wall. And this is our horizon of possibility that we just created together. And generally, when I do this exercise with groups, I've done it with youth, and I've done it in like larger settings like this one. I like to wrap up the activity doing some sort of collective reflection exercise or reflecting back what came up in the exercise. That's okay, just float it away, through a poem. So one of the key things that Moose was talking about was the importance of cultivating a dream. And especially when there we go, the dream. Especially when we think of working with at-risk youth who a lot of the time are being misunderstood. Like I know the question came up earlier about how do you engage with youth that are like lazy or apathetic. And I would like to just pause and encourage folks to think about what might lead a person to being that way. Or from our perception, from our vantage point, seeing a person in that way, and thinking about what that person, like what those people's starting points might be. Because a lot of the time when a youth is disengaged, whether they're very young or they're older, a lot of the time it's because they're misunderstood and they haven't had the opportunity to share their stories. So earlier we did a little bit of story sharing collectively. And I'm going to take this moment to reflect back some of the stories that came out of that independent exercise, but in a new way. And we'll see how this lands for folks. One of the key themes that has been emerging for me personally, listening to Moose and reflecting on some of the key insights from today's session, it's just the importance of cultivating spaces of belonging or a culture of belonging. What does that actually mean? Because we can stand up here and talk about that using like buzzwords all day, but what does that actually mean in practice? Hopefully through this poem, I hope you feel a sense of belonging and hopefulness as we wrap up for today. So I'm gonna go ahead and read this based on the various words and sentences you folks wrote down, and I hope you feel seen in this piece, even if it's just for a moment. And then I'll invite Tanya back up to do a round of questions, thank yous, and then we'll be off for today, so it'll be awesome. Yes. Okay. Without further ado, this is our Horizons of Possibility poem that we co-created together that you had no idea we were making. Yay! Okay, let's get into it. We come from Calgary, Cascadia, and Inglewood, Yukon, Nova Scotia, Ontario. Cascades falling, a mossy kingdom lost among the trees. We come from seeing our country by foot, by bicycle, 7,600 kilometers at 25 kilometers an hour. We come from excitement, open-mindedness, and confusion, driven by passion, working to make a difference, a meaningful career, a breath of fresh air. We are working for the fish, the clouds, the mountains, ourselves and our families, overcoming fear, smallness, rigidity, and concern. We are building a future of inspiration, of science and entrepreneurship, connecting with the land, community, and the trees, dreaming of comfort, peace, change, and home. And we know it's not that far away. Thank you. Can you believe you all made that together? You all did that. Yes. Yes. Exactly. So just a little bit of insight into that process. Everybody responded to the same questions. And you can do this in a number of different ways. Sometimes I ask youth, where are they coming in from, as a sort of check-in question. And they write it down like this, or you could just do it in a group session. And people might say, like, my day was terrible. And you take in that feedback and you're like, okay, that's valid. And a part of that active listening piece is providing moments where you reflect back what you hear. So what I did was I sat down, and you can also do this without getting people to write down their answers, just by listening. And you create, as people are sharing their thoughts, you write down keywords and you reflect it back to them in a new way. And all of a sudden, it makes people feel seen in a new way. Like how did folks feel when I read that poem? Feeling words, it's hard. Optimistic, energized. Like we just took something, happy, and we turned it into something else. We alchemized it collectively through me just reflecting back what you shared. Sometimes I even like to repeat the poem twice because the second time you hear it, new insights emerge, and maybe we can do that before we end. But that was one of the offerings I wanted to bring today, just underscoring that the messiness of the process which we were going through can ultimately lead to really beautiful places. And it's okay if we don't have all the answers as we're doing this work, and it's okay if things feel a little bit strange or uncomfortable, but collaboratively leaning into that is really important, especially as we want to encourage youth to think about moving beyond what's traditional and embracing their entrepreneurial spirit. I think we'll leave it there. Okay.
Yeah.
That's it. And Tanya's going to come back up here.
I'll just stand here.
Yeah.
Is there any last questions for these two awesome facilitators? No.
Everybody's like ready to leave for today.
So let's give one last round of applause. Both of them, they were awesome.
Thank you.
And do you want to end with the poem one last
Yeah,
time?
I'll read the poem one more time. We're going to leave off on this positive note. And once again, thank you, everyone. If you want to take your tiles before you leave, you're more than welcome to. Otherwise, I won't recycle them. I'll just use the backs, and they will be reused in some other activity. Okay. Last read through, and then you folks are off. We come from Calgary, Cascadia, and Inglewood, Yukon, Nova Scotia, Ontario, Cascades falling, a mossy kingdom lost among the trees. We come from seeing our country by foot, by bicycle, 7,600 kilometers at 25 kilometers an hour. We come from excitement, open-mindedness, and confusion, driven by passion, working to make a difference, a meaningful career, a breath of fresh air. We are working for the fish, the clouds, the mountains, ourselves and our families, overcoming fear, smallness, rigidity, and concern. Building a future of inspiration, of science and entrepreneurship, connecting with the land, community, and the trees. We are dreaming of comfort, peace, change, and home, and we know that it's not that far away. Thank you. Now, go have the evening you most need. It was a pleasure speaking with you all today.